every year we're told irons are getting faster, stronger, and overall just better feeling. So surely with 25 years difference, I should be blown away with the improvements. However, you might be wondering why I've chosen this particular matchup, and that'll be important throughout this video, but also clearly explain what are the advantages of newer irons, and in some cases, would you be better off with older ones? Especially when you consider our old set of clubs consisted of 10 clubs and not 6. Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. Simon here, SAS Golf Academy, where I do all my in-person teaching, online tuition, as well as second-hand club fitting. And I'm gonna say it right now, I probably won't be fitting for these burner LCG irons anytime soon, but having them recently turn up into the studio got me thinking, how much improvement have we really had over the last 25 years when we're talking about performance? We're talking about distance, let's say efficiency off the face. Will this give me faster ball speeds? Let's say the same club head speed. Forgiveness, toe hits, heel hits, and then overall launch and spin numbers, because there's a reason why I chose the TaylorMade P770 to go against this burner LCG. And of course, we're going to look at the results at the end, as I'm very interested to see how these are going to perform. However, the LCG TaylorMade iron actually stood for low center of gravity. So back in the day, this burner head was a game improvement iron. An iron to get the ball up in the air. The iron for, let's say, the beginner golfer, or let's say mid to high handicap golfer. And to be fair, at the time, a roaring success, especially with the infamous bubble shaft, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But I can't test this game improvement iron against a modern day game improvement iron, because there has been significant change, and we'll hit some shots in a minute when we're comparing, let's say, a more modern day game improvement iron versus what is now considered a player's iron, and we'll talk about the loss in a minute, and you will see an overwhelming difference. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag right now. Therefore, if you're a beginner in 2025, you've got a much better head start in terms of forgiveness and distance than, let's say, a beginner in the late 1990s. And with a tiny bit of research looking online over the last 25 years, apparently, on average, us golfers have improved by 2 strokes, our average handicap of 16 all the way down to 14. That being said, I don't think any of us have noticed that, and still probably find this game just as frustrating as a 16 handicapper as you would a 14 handicapper, even with all this help that we've been given. Not to mention, a beginner golfer back in the day would have had a 3-iron in this set, 4-iron in this set, come included. And that could have been a blessing in disguise when we're looking at, let's say, the cost-based analysis. However, the invention of fairway woods, hybrids with their modern day tech, carbon, forgiveness, is of course an added bonus. Yes, of course, that raises the price up of what a bag in 2025 actually costs compared to potentially what a full set of irons would have just replaced for you in the like-for-like category back in the day. So with those obvious improvements put to one side, I think it's important to clarify what I want to test, because let's be honest, this looks very underwhelming. The burner LCG, lofted at 33 degrees. Doesn't look like it's got much tech. It did 25 years ago, gleaming, especially with this very low torque bubble shaft that I have here. And again, we'll talk about how that feels in a minute. When you compare it to the gleaming P770, stunning looking club, stunning performing club, and actually for a player's iron, pretty forgiving. Just quickly, I've tried to get the shafts as similar as possible. There's a bubble shaft that I have here, Reg Flex, and I've got this recoil Reg Flex. Again, both of them promoting, I haven't got the exact figures of what the bubble shaft can do, but I presume back in the day it was there for mid to high launch. Therefore, I just put it in the high to mid trajectory of the recoil. It's not a perfect match, I appreciate that. And also, if we quickly mention length, the bubble burner shaft, or let's say the LCG, is 1/4 inch longer. So I'm just gonna grip down it a touch. Also, quick side by side, this P770 player's iron, like if I put that in a modern day golfer's, high handicap golfer's hands, they go, there's there's absolutely no way I could hit that P770. That is a blade. And to a degree, it's definitely smaller than what we're given, but it's not that dissimilar to this very forgiving, or what would have been considered forgiving back in the day. So there is a clear advantage if you're, let's say, a slower player in 2025. There's just more choice. Oh, I've got the wrong iron here. You have more choice at your disposal. You have hybrid irons nowadays. We have 9 woods, 11 woods, and also shafts in themselves. Now I've picked up the 4 iron. I will get there in a minute. Right, we're cooking on gas. As I mentioned, shafts have come on a long way. This bubble shaft, 80 gram reg flex, is so low in torque. That was kind of what it's designed for, like off-center hit, stable face. You get to feel the head, but it feels like a pole. Like just picking up this club, I felt sorry for the beginner golfer that had a low right slice, because this thing just wants to stay open. And to be honest, in terms of, let's say, a player's iron, I feel quite comfortable over this. As he pushes it out to the right-hand side. Because when I compare this to a modern-day iron, or let's say a modern-day stiff steel iron, there's a lot of similarities I can draw up. All right, let's see if I can put some half-decent numbers on the board. Oh, yes. That felt lovely. Very nice, and to be fair, felt quite good, to be honest. And I guess when you hit any player's iron out the middle, they all kind of feel good. However, quickly before we get into the P770, let me just hit the stealth, because I guess this is where club fitting comes in. Overall in this game, hitting your 7 iron over 150 yards is a big advantage. Anything over 180 yards, 190 yards could be deemed not an advantage. And that's why we have choice in this game, and we're blessed in 2025 to have so much choice in terms of what head design, shafts, everything else that comes under that umbrella. Well, I've caught that out of the toe. Certainly more forgiving. Seems like I've also swung that a bit faster, even though I didn't mean to. However, we don't need to be a golf fitting expert to see clearly the stealth's more powerful and more forgiving. And to be honest, for me, too unruly. I don't want my spin this low. I don't want my launch that low. Because if my 7 iron's going 205 yards carry, well, what's my pitching wedge going at? And how do I hit a 100-yard wedge shot into a green? But not every golfer in the world swings like I did just there. I de-loft my club face on the way down. I actually take a lot of that spin off with my hands being very much ahead of the golf ball and my plane being somewhat on the inside. So imagine a golfer releases, casts, keeps that club face very open in the downswing, and 9 times out of 10 leaves the club face too open, causing a slice. Well, these stealth irons are absolute godsend. As you can see now, my launch is back up to what my launch was with the TaylorMade with my swing. And actually the backspin very similar as well. If I'd hit that exact same shot with the LCG and not this stealth iron, we wouldn't even be there. We would be somewhere back here. And that is what club fitting, head design, shaft is all about. Not only having good, let's say, left to right dispersion, but more importantly, front to back. I've only just got to notice that's supposed to say burner LCG, not P770. So I've made a new code, which is actually the P770, which is what we're going to hit now. Now, believe it or not, regardless of how these results come out, and obviously as much as I can try and swing these both the same and the numbers come out the way they are, I'm not going to tell you to go and buy the burner LCGs. Like, in terms of condition of second-hand clubs, the fact that that is old graphite, very temperamental, I don't know how long that's going to last. And ironically, looking on eBay, £150 it sells for apparently. I think there's a bit of nostalgia in there somewhere. I feel there's a few golfers that were in their heyday in the 90s and go, oh, what was I using back then? The only kind of problem I would say about going back to those, hoping that you're going to get the same kind of feeling as you did back then, is number one, you're not quite the same golfer. 25 years is a long time. But also the ball's changed a lot over the last 20, 25 years. So much more lower spinning, so much more firmer than they used to be. And actually, I look back at the ball like 30 years ago, the average golfer could use a 3-iron, could use a 4-iron, because it was a ping pong ball compared to now. And it's why so many of us gravitate now to a 5-wood, 7-wood, don't bother with a 3-wood, because of this thing. It's so low spinning, we almost need help getting the launch up. And when you add in high launch and low spin, we all equal more distance, which for the most part is certainly an advantage. That felt very good. Now, as I rattle off a few more shots and obviously gather my thoughts, there is no question in terms of feeling that the P770 is in a league above, obviously, the Burner LCG. But there's 25 years difference. And I guess another point of this video is that this, for nostalgia reasons, the likelihood many of them in good condition on the second-hand market is that they go for £160. Okay, you're getting 8 irons, but let's be honest, none of us are using the 3-iron or whatever it might be. However, for another £100 more, you could get a set of 900 forged Mizuno irons that are going to be similar in lofts to both of these. Or maybe they might be a bit stronger. The Mizuno Tour irons, for example, at 33 degrees. The point of this video is that head design, shaft, and yes, a more modern day technology, i.e. they've been made within the last decade, is ultimately going to be the biggest difference for your golf game, not these yearly or 2-yearly cycles that we keep getting told. I'm going to hit a few more with the Burner, even though I'm pretty sure those numbers are good. However, I'm a bit more warmed up. And the last point, realistically, is that yes, distance is an advantage in this game. However, it's not always the advantage. And the better you get at this game, the less distance you want, the more spin you want, the more you want to know a club goes a particular yardage. And it's why blades exist. It's why tour irons exist, because we all hit bad shots at the end of the day. Therefore, if there was a club that gave you ultimate control, ultimate forgiveness, ultimate distance, cool, we'd all be playing it. There'd only be one shaft and one head. Since these irons came out and the rules of golf and technology and R&D have been churning along over the last 25 years, we have kind of maxed out each head design, I feel, in terms of the ultimate control head, the ultimate distance head, the ultimate forgiveness head, whatever it might be. So I do feel a small part of me now is you're only buying a new set of irons to get fitted, and I completely agree. If you're buying a brand new set of irons, please do get fitted if you're spending £1,000. And then maybe you could say condition as well when it comes to wedges. Like you don't want to use, let's say, second-hand wedges if they've really been ground out. But apart from that, over the next decade or so, I really can't see how we're going to improve, especially when I show you the result of this test right now. Ooh, a tiny leak to the right to finish off with. So let me show you the dispersion pattern, and you'll be surprised why, okay, the P770 went further, but is it because it's faster? Is it because it's more efficient? Or is actually there's something else at play? Those two blue dots, that's obviously the newer ones, older ones. So again, could I go and play golf at my level with the Burner LCG irons, which I deem not necessarily a beginner iron anymore, more of a player's iron in 2025? Well, very comfortably. If anything, actually, my front to back dispersion with the Burner LCG is better for me. As you can see, the P770, I skated on that backspin line a tiny bit too low. Let me explain. As I mentioned with the Stealth iron, some of you spin your irons too much. Therefore, like here, for example, this is kind of a good apex, but let's say you had 7,000 spin or 8,000 spin with your 7-iron because you cast it, your ball would simply go up and then come down. The alternative is that your spin's too low. Therefore, all of a sudden, it carries, but then because the descent angle is now not as steep, does that stop on the green or does that run out? Not to mention, when I pull it and my spin drops, it goes even further. And as you can imagine, someone that swings relatively fast like myself, if I'm 180 from the flag, but a pull 7 goes, I don't know, 190, 200, therefore I, and let's say low handicap golfers that hit the ball quite hard, want more backspin. And therefore, in the same breath, more control. Now, is this a fair test? God, no. This is far from a fair test, and a mixed match of shafts, etc. However, there's two things I want to highlight. Number one, could I get fitted into this P770 head? Crank up the lofts a bit more for me, potentially a different shaft to give me those numbers that I want in terms of more spin, even though this is kind of a graphite. Yes, of course I could. Would I probably feel more comfortable having these in the bag considering this? Yes, because on off-center hits to a degree, my efficiency across the board was better with the P770. However, don't again think that the P770 is so much faster than, let's say, the LCG, because again, loft plays, or let's say dynamic loft, launch angle plays a huge part in efficiency, meaning a driver's efficiency is 1.5 because it's a brick wall, or a sandwich is 1.05 or 1.1 because there's loft there. You're not going to get compression from that compared to that, no matter what the club's made of. And again, that's why de-lofted irons, modern day irons, are more efficient because again, they're kind of de-lofted. So that brick wall that keeps hitting the ball gives you the distance, knocks down the spin, and for a lot of golfers, that is advantageous. I think the important thing to take away from this video is that newer clubs are all more powerful. They're all lower spinning, and it's also why we've got so many head choices now, which is a good thing. Rather back in the day having 2 heads to choose from, which you would have spent your hard-earned money on, you now can choose from 6 different heads that every manufacturer brings out each year with multiple different shafts that you can hit now as well. My only thing is we've improved in terms of the choice and what kind of combinations that golfers can have now. Not necessarily that the metal's any faster than it used to be. Guys, if you like this video, make sure to leave it a like, and I'll catch you in the next one.